So in October during the hunting season, we have a sacred ceremony, and I was part of that, as a little girl. And what would happen was all my uncles would say, "Yes, we are going to go and and go hunting at such and such a time," because they had their own, in the mountains they had their own hunting grounds. So what they would do was they would come the night before to my mom and dad's house, because we had a big house, enough to accommodate my uncles. And it was the noisiest, noisy, because with their laughter and all that stuff, it was so beautiful to hear that. So what happened was they said, okay, they brought their big, bags and all that, and but I didn't see that many dogs, So, but they had their rifles with them, and they were well prepared, their bags, their food, and all that. And so they would spend that night at my mom and dad's place. And in the morning, before the sun came up, what they would do would, they would have a sacred ceremony, and they would bring all their pipes with them, big, big pipes, because men have, these long pipes. They all had that, and they came in, and they would, and as a result of that, I would be privileged to sit there and uh, and listen and be part of the ceremony, away from the circle though. So they would sit there, and what they did was they would offer their tobacco. Tobacco is our spiritual connection. Okay, our spiritual connection. That's one of the medicines that was given to us by the Creator to communicate. It's a spiritual communicator from the physical world to the spiritual level. So as a result of that, they would put that tobacco in their pipes, and they would communicate with the Creator, tell the Creator to tell, and they would call on the spirit of maybe the moose, the bear, the elk, and they would say, "Hey, I'm coming. I'm so and so." I would say, like, if I was a hunter, I would say, "I'm an imki kwe," bonse do there, and I am coming. I'm coming to, uh, to hunt for you. I'm going to come in there, and the spirit of that animal would listen. The spirit of that animal would listen and say, "Oh, okay, that's if I connected with a bear, I would say the bear, I am coming over here. I need your medicine. I need the meat. I need your fur. I need everything for my sustenance." Okay, and that bear would say, "Okay." The spirit of the bear would hear that from the communication of the pipe, the tobacco. They would, their spirit would, you know, they would listen, they would hear it, and they would get ready. When the hunting season, I mean, when they went there, sure enough, you know, that bear or that other animal or duck would pose themselves in there and give their lives for for that for that their spirit, the spiritual essence of the family, the spiritual sustenance, I should say, of that family. And sure enough, they would get all that. They would get all that. That's what that sacred hunting society is. It's a very, very oldest, one of the oldest ceremonies that nowadays there are hardly any hunters who know of that ceremony. But my uncles would come back, my dad would come back, exactly what they said in that ceremony, what they wanted, they would bring it back to their family, to their wives. And the first thing that they would do would they would go and bring it to the widows, the elders, people who people who couldn't go hunting, people who were hungry. They would be the first ones, even before they put it in their family. As a result of that, that hunting season was a very successful, if they did that ceremony. And I know it was a very sacred ceremony. It was done in a very sacred way. And their families were able to eat, you know. And of course, not only did they bring that, and they would have a feast, and they would do certain things with the bear, and the moose, and that's up to the family, eh? That's up to. I'm not going to say that in here, so but it's their every family had their own custom of savoring the sacred parts of an animal and how they did with it. So they would have feasts. They would feast, celebration. They would have a round dance. A round dance is a very sacred dance for us. And a round dance is that everybody comes in and we feed. Certain families will say, yes, come on over to the round dance and we'll feed you and we'll celebrate everything with you with a giveaway and just storytelling. People would get up and say, this is what happened. This is what happened at the hunting. And a lot of stories were told, beautiful stories about the encounters with the little people, how the little people would play tricks on them, and how the little people would appear to them, because the little people are little people, abstinis. They are the land keepers, and they know they have families too, so they would leave something for them, and beautiful stories were told. But also the stories of the Sasquatches. That's part of the hunting. The hunting stories is the Sasquatch. Sasquatch was played a very, very important role, because the Sasquatch would tell you, in the ceremonies, what to do and where to go, and if he didn't, he would things would happen, if you don't listen, So the Sasquatch is a very friendly, friendly creature. I know he's one of our helpers, and so the farmers and my dad was a great friend of the Sasquatch. He understood what the Sasquatch is all about, and so other beings. They saw other beings in there. So if the thing in here is, if you know your way of life and you know how to treat, all of creation, all of Mother Earth, everything will be successful. You can feed your family in a good way. You can feed, yourself in a good way, and good things will happen in the most beautiful way. And that's what I tell the students. Learn your stories. You have beautiful stories, that they can tell. Go and give tobacco to the elders. Go and give tobacco to your mom and dad. Go and give tobacco to your uncles and aunties, and they will tell you stories. Well, one of the things is I plan on doing that. As the years roll on, I need to do that more often, and I encourage everybody to do that. Go and talk to your ancestors, and they will give you beautiful stories. I have all kinds of stories I can tell you, with all these ceremonies. What happened, in our way of life. It's not a religion; it's a way of life. A way of life that the Creator gave to us as Indigenous people. So I say miigwech.